Okay, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the Age of Chivalry during the Middle Ages and what that all means. As you remember from our feudalism pyramid that we learned about previously, knights were, of course, under the nobles and above the peasants, and knights served their nobles or their lords, and they were indispensable as essentially private warriors for the nobles or the lords because there was constant fighting in medieval Europe. And if you think about what a knight represents and the skills that he possesses, he really is an indispensable part of medieval society. He has strength and power, and then, of course, when he's on his horse, he has speed. The armor makes him almost invincible to other soldiers, with the exception of other knights. And in return for their service, the knights would receive land from the nobles, in which they would allow peasants to live on that land, to grow crops, and the money that was raised from being on that land would fund their lifestyle. Now, a knight's job was to be ready for war, and that started at a very young age. Right around the age of 7, a young boy would be essentially apprenticed to another knight, and he would start to learn the ways of warfare and learn how to ride a horse. And right around the age of 7, his title would be called page, and he would serve as a page right around to the age of 14 when he would become a servant to the knight. And from the age of 14 to about 21, he would serve as what is called a squire, which is a servant. And he would follow him into battle, and he would prepare his armor, and he would essentially learn basically firsthand what it meant to be a knight. How does chivalry find its way into knighthood? Now, knights were expected to follow the code of chivalry. Now, it's kind of a wide variety of terms and different things that chivalry stood for, but our book and most historians would agree that it focused on the ideas or the ideals of courage, loyalty, and devotion. A knight should serve his masters, and those three masters or their three lords were their noble, the person who gave them their job and gave them their land and who they were to fight for. Knights should also be good practicing Christians and serve their God. Some were, some weren't. And then finally, the last person or a group that a knight should be loyal to was their woman. Now, maybe that was their wife or the woman that they wanted to be their wife. They were expected to show respect towards women. And knights were also expected to fight according to the rules of war. Now, warfare has changed drastically in the 800 years since the Middle Ages, but some of the basic things that knights were expected to do was to show respect for fellow knights. And what we see here in the photo on the right is before a knight would go into battle, he would acknowledge other knights that he was going to either fight with or fight against, and he would do that by lifting his facial shield. Now, some people say that this is actually the predecessor or the reason why in the military today why they do that salute. And you can see in both photos, the knight at the top and some cadets at West Point on the bottom, you can see the similarities. Now, we don't know 100% for sure, but that is a possible origin of it. And now, of course, there's no way of actually ensuring this, but only knights should kill fellow knights. That was an idea that was believed at the time. Remember that knights were well trained, and a lot of money and time went into their training. So for a peasant to kill a knight was seen as kind of bad form. So an ideal way, if a knight was going to die on the battlefield, was for him to die at the hand of another knight. This idea of chivalry is, I think, perfectly displayed in this painting of St. George slaying the dragon. St. George was, most historians agree, he was a real person. He was actually a Roman soldier, but he's often depicted as a medieval knight. And he is seen here kind of slaying a dragon or a demon on the right, and in the back on the left we see a woman who is actually, according to legend, she was a princess. And what we see right here are the three basic ideas of chivalry, the three loyalties. On the right, slaying the dragon, Now, a dragon could be representative of the devil or of a demon, so that's loyalty to God. And then we see the knight himself carrying out his duty and his actions. That would be a loyalty to his lord or his noble. And then, obviously, with the princess on the left side, that would be loyalty to one's woman. Now, the idea of knights fighting nobly and everything kind of having rules and decorum really are not realistic in how medieval warfare actually happened. Nobles built castles to protect themselves. That's the main role. It was to protect the noble himself, his family, his servants, and his knights, and they were designed primarily for defense. While they're impressive, and many of them are still standing in places like France and England and Ireland today, but they were mainly built to protect people. And we can see that with the high towers, the real thick walls, the moats, the drawbridges, even the very narrow windows allowed archers to fire from the castle walls at anybody who was attacking. Of course, if there were people that tried to rush the castle, the defenders would fight against them. There would be boiling oil and molten lead dropped on them. It was a very, very difficult thing to attack a castle. So the most effective way to capture a castle was actually waiting and simply doing what we call laying siege to it. That was to surround it and basically starve the people that were inside the castle into surrender. You cut off their sources of food. If you could cut off their source of water, obviously that would end the siege very quickly, and you would slowly chip away at the castle. That could be using weapons like trebuchets that we see here at the bottom to hurl heavy rocks up against the strong stone walls, or in some cases they actually would tunnel underneath the walls of the castle and cause the castle walls to collapse upon themselves, making it easier to attack the city or attack the castle itself. Regardless, it was a very slow, very brutal, very painful process to attack and defeat a castle. Now, not everything was about warfare during the Middle Ages, and the idea of epics and poems and troubadours played a very important role in medieval culture and lifestyle. Now, poems and songs glorified knights and lords and castle life, and they kind of help paint the picture for what we believe the Middle Ages to be today. Now, the role of these poets and troubadours were musicians who traveled Europe singing songs about love and charity and knights. They're incredibly important because they are existing in a period when the vast majority of people do not know how to read or write. So their songs and their poems are an essential way that information and culture is transmitted and passed down, because the fact, like I said, that they cannot read, most people cannot read and most people cannot write. So it is the passing down through what we call, we've talked about this before, the oral tradition. And then a lot of these troubadours, a lot of these poems, they talk about these things like chivalry and love and knights, but they also portray a very false image of knights and women at the time. It's not very realistic. The knights were always seen as, wonderful people, as brave and courageous, and as always fighting for the right things, and they always wind up happy in the end. These, of course, are not realistic, and real life has a way of kind of disproving that. And the last thing that we're going to talk about today is the role of women. In feudalism, in the Middle Ages, most people lacked rights, regardless of your gender and regardless of your place in society. Women not only lacked rights, but they were also seen as inferior to men. So even male peasants had life a little bit better than women did. Noble women did have some rights, and in their husband's place, if he were off fighting, she could manage some of the things in his kingdom or castle, but even a noble woman didn't have much say in her day-to-day life. She was expected to be a wife and mother and a good practicing Christian. Peasant women had no rights at all. They were supposed to be obedient to their husbands or to their fathers. Even though they had no rights at all, they played an extremely important role because they did a lot of farming around the household and household work. Now, while that doesn't seem like the most glamorous work ever, this is an essential part of the economy in the Middle Ages. Without women participating in farming and household work, the medieval economy would have basically shut down. Because remember, the whole idea of feudalism that we talked about is if one part of society stops working, the whole cycle breaks down. So I hope you learned a little bit more about chivalry. I hope you learned a little bit more about knights and a little bit of what everyday life was like for people during the Middle Ages.